think I'm going to be calling the series DC Distory. Do we like the name? It's subject to change. Okay, this is definitely gonna make too much noise for the mic, but I just want us to all know that it was here. It may never focus on it, but it's a High School Musical locket bracelet. Hey everyone, it's Jona, and today I am super excited for the first episode of a new series I've been working on. I am a massive Disney Channel fan. Disney Channel basically raised me and created my personality. I have been trying to think of a series that I could do for a while, and this just seemed like the perfect fit. Like, a lot of people talk about Disney parks and Disney films, but not so much DCOMs and Disney Channel original series. I'm planning on putting up an episode every Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. I just want to explore the history and the making of some of the best and most underappreciated DCOMs and series. I thought that the first episode, the natural fit, would be High School Musical. High School Musical defined me, it has made me who I am, which sounds super dramatic, but it's the truth.
Wow, High School Musical features Zac Efron as Troy, Zach, Vanessa Ann Hudgens as Gabriella, the rest of the gang, which features Chad, Zeke, and Jake, played by Corbin Blue, and other two people, I don't know their names, they're not important to me. Shimmy, shimmy, shake some booty and turn around.
I've done some research to look for things that maybe some people wouldn't know about High School Musical, but let's face it, we all pretty much know everything there is. If you're a true fan, you'll probably know a lot of this. But it's still really fun to talk about. I am so excited! So first, I just want to talk about a little bit of the history behind High School Musical. Where did the idea come from? How did it come to be? Now, I'm just warning everybody ahead of time, it is very likely that I will butcher some of these names, starting with the screenwriter. Peter Barsacchini? Peter Barsacchini, we're gonna say that. For the sake of not embarrassing myself the entire video, we're just gonna call him Peter. So Peter admitted that he basically ripped off Shakespeare, you know, as a lot of people do, and I don't fault him for that. It is a classic star-crossed lover story. Though admittedly, High School Musical is a lot less tragic than Romeo and Juliet. In addition to ripping off Shakespeare, Peter also ripped off his own life. He went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and the star athlete confided in him that he wanted to be a ballet dancer, which I love. It also, just on a complete side note, reminds me of the game plan, you know, the montage to Mr. Blue Sky, when they have the football players practicing and training and the ballet dancers practicing and training. Both are very intense sports that require practice and discipline, and so, you know, honestly, shout out to this star athlete who goes unnamed. Some of the characters even drew inspiration from his own life. Peter named Gabriella after his daughter, and Sharpay after a dog that once bit him. So you see the correlation. Much of Peter's original script actually did make it to the screen, which I think is super cool. Disney wanted the characters to be in middle school musical? It doesn't have the same ring. But Peter knew that kids wanted to see a look down the road, not where they are today. If you're in middle school, you don't want to just see how horrible middle school is. You want to look forward to, like, the glamour of high school. Glamour. Now, of course, it would not be a High School Musical video if we didn't shout out Kenny Ortega, the director. Kenny Ortega, his work has truly shaped a generation, and I feel that he influenced my life in a very positive way. High School Musical was actually his first movie since Hocus Pocus, which surprised me. That seems like a big gap. I am so glad that Kenny took on this project because I truly cannot picture anybody else bringing High School Musical to life. I'm trying so hard to think of somebody else that would have brought the same magic to the franchise, and I truly cannot think of anybody else. Kenny was the only choice. At least in my eyes, in hindsight, looking back. I'm sure they had other choices, but thank goodness they picked Kenny. For the auditions, Kenny ran them very professionally, very much like a Broadway audition. Kenny and the casting directors put these people through a lot of callbacks, and the whole process took about 2 months. They had to make sure that these people were triple threats, that they could sing, dance, act, and also just have the charisma to really pop on screen. So let's talk about Troy. As we all know, Zac Efron became Troy, and I think that was a great decision, but some other notable names did audition. One name that really stood out to me is Sterling Knight. You're telling me Christopher Wilde could have been Troy Bolton? That has to blow your mind. Hunter Parrish and Drew Seeley also auditioned, but ultimately Zac just had all of the qualities to be like the next heartthrob sensation teen idol. They were definitely right about that because Zac Efron was a very, very intense crush of mine when High School Musical was happening. I didn't have posters in my room. I didn't quite hit that level. Drew Seeley, as we all know by now, sang for Zac in the first High School Musical movie. That wasn't the original plan, and I don't know if Zac was even aware that it was gonna happen, but somewhere along the line in the process, it just became clear that Zac's voice was not quite strong enough to carry Troy Bolton's vocals. Troy was very clearly a tenor, and Zac Efron was more of a baritone, and I think that's where the problem was. But Zac did go into voice lessons for the second two films, and of course his voice is heard on both of those. Now this was definitely intended to be a secret. The cast had talking points, and it wasn't supposed to be a widely known thing, but when the movie boomed, it was hard for them to just ignore it and sweep it under the rug, and like poor Drew Seeley, like to not get credit for his vocals and the work that he put in, that would have just been terrible. But the whole secret thing definitely worked. I was a super fan of High School Musical. It was my life when it came out. I lived, breathed, slept High School Musical. To the point where I was making home movies with our giant video camera, like reenacting High School Musical. I pretty much knew it word for word. But one thing that I couldn't accept was when people told me that Zac Efron wasn't singing in the movie. For some reason, that would get me so mad. I would argue with my cousins about it. I could not believe it because Zac was Troy. Troy's mouth was moving and sound was coming out. He was obviously singing. And I think maybe the whole secretive aspect of it played into like my intense, what even is it, determination to prove that it was Zac. But eventually, yes, I did accept that it was Drew Seeley. I think what helped was that Drew was in the concert tour and I just couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't make up any more excuses. It was just so clear that it was Drew all along. Let's get back to the auditions. Zac and Vanessa were paired for the final callback, and it was just immediately apparent that they had this insane chemistry, to the point where casting directors were like a little bit worried. They could tell that Vanessa was nervous around him, and they weren't sure how that would play out. But ultimately, their chemistry made for such a great movie. You truly have to believe that Troy and Gabriella are in love. I mean, there's no way around it. Corbin Bleu originally auditioned for Ryan. He didn't even know that Chad was a role. Like, can you imagine the difference that we would have had? I mean, Corbin's a great dancer, and he would have been amazing as Ryan, but I truly can't see anybody playing a different role. Like, they're all so iconic in the role that they ended up playing. Similarly, Lucas Grabeel auditioned for Troy, which is really, like I said, like I can't picture anybody swapping. If the movie were made today, I would love to see somebody from the LGBTQ+ community playing Ryan, but at the time, I think Lucas did a really good job. Ryan is never confirmed to be gay. He's not canonically gay, I guess, because it's never explicitly stated in the movies or books. But Kenny, Ortega, and Lucas, they both knew that he was. And part of this choice to like not explicitly state it was obviously like the time. I mean, 2006 doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was in terms of this. And also it was grounded in realism because Kenny knew he was gay in high school, but didn't tell anybody or didn't really like act on it, I guess. So he felt it was likely that Ryan hadn't really explored that yet. But all the same, young kids have thanked Kenny and Lucas for bringing Ryan to life, and I think that's really cool. For the role of Gabriella, both Ashley Tisdale and Monique Coleman auditioned. Monique breaks my heart because she just lacks so much confidence at the time that High School Musical began. After her audition for Gabriella, Monique says she just knew it was terrible, and I highly doubt it was terrible. She is so talented and so charismatic. And she says she didn't really feel equipped to sing and dance, which I can't imagine because she's so good. She's such a triple threat in my eyes. And something that was really nice to hear is that during filming, Allison Reed, who plays Miss Starbus, became like a mentor to her, which is just so sweet to like think about and imagine. And Monique says that she really credits her with helping her get her confidence back, which just like brings a tear to my eye. Honestly, thank you, Allison, because Monique deserved to feel confident and good about herself and proud of her abilities and what she brought to the franchise, because without Monique and without Taylor, what would High School Musical be? Taylor is iconic, Monique is iconic, and I hope that she looks back and is so proud of the work that she did. Something that I just cannot get over that was revealed somewhat recently is that Ashley Tisdale and Lucas Grabeel didn't get along. If that doesn't upset you as a High School Musical fan, I don't know what world you're living in. They made a video for her YouTube channel, for Ashley's YouTube channel, and revealed this. And when I saw the clip, my jaw hit the floor. I cried. I was inconsolable. This is an exaggeration, but also kind of not. It was just so shocking to me. I've always pictured the High School Musical cast as just one big happy family, which I'm sure is highly unrealistic. I mean, even families fight. But just to hear that they didn't get along and that they hated each other, as they say, hurts my heart to degrees I cannot explain. Lucas says that he hated her from his audition because she wanted to keep rehearsing and was giving him notes. Which makes me cringe. Ashley, why did you do that? And Ashley does admit that she was a lot like Sharpay in that way. Oh no. To be clear, they have grown closer since then, and they share a bond, that nobody else really understands. I mean, everyone in the cast does. They went through this crazy experience together, and so I think they're bonded for life in that way. And I mean, they did do this collaboration for her YouTube channel, which to me is definitely a good sign. I wanted to point out two cameos. Are they cameos? I don't know what to call them, but two notable people that were in High School Musical that you might not know about, but probably do know about, let's be honest. The first one I've known since I was little because I am a massive So You Think You Can Dance fan, and Allison Holker was on one of the earlier seasons of it, and she spoke about how she was in High School Musical as a cheerleader. And so from then on, every time I watched, I always kept an eye out for Allison and got really excited when I saw her. You might know her from TikTok and Instagram with her husband Twitch and their adorable family. They're so talented. So be sure to spot Allison as a cheerleader. And Molly Gray, who has blown up on TikTok. She is part of the Pride House LA TikTok. She was in Teen Beach Movie as Giggles. You might remember her super, what do I call this fabric? Her dress. It would shake because it had, what is the word? Oh my gosh, I'm sitting here and I can't remember the word for this kind of dress. It's like a flapper dress, but it has tassels. That doesn't feel right. What is the word? Somebody let me know. I can't spend forever on this. But she played one of the brainiacs in Stick to the Status Quo, and she might be in other parts, but that's the only place I've spotted her. One of the co-choreographers, Chucky, was also in the movie. I remember seeing the little behind the scenes things that Disney would show during commercial breaks, and I remember seeing Chucky as the choreographer and then spotting him in the movie and feeling super cool, like I knew something no one else did, but I'm pretty sure everybody knew. Chucky has said that his favorite part was the basketball choreography, which I totally believe because how fun would that be? And how challenging. They did work with a basketball coach called Rob LaFollette. He helped them because there are actual plays mentioned in the song that needed to be accurate. Zach has said that they had 3 hours of basketball practice a day. I can't imagine how tired they must be. Not only learning all of the choreography and vocals and blocking for the entire film, but also having to come across as being a really good basketball player. That sounds really hard. So they had one big table read, and then they went off to rehearsals. And Kenny Ortega kind of forgot who he was working with at first and ran these really intense rehearsals. But Zach was really thankful for that. I remember reading somewhere that he told Kenny, don't worry about it. We all want this to be a really good project. And whatever they did, it worked. So we all know that they did film at a real high school, but I didn't know that classes were still in session when this was filming. And when I first read that, I was like, wow, imagine you're going to calculus and there's Zac Efron and Ashley Tisdale and Vanessa Hudgens and Corbin Bleu and Monique Coleman and Lucas Grabeel and all of the others. How crazy would that be? But at the time, these people weren't really known, with the exception of Ashley and kind of Lucas maybe because of Halloween Town. So they probably didn't even think twice about it. Which I can't, that's so weird to think about. On set, there was a yawn jar, so if you yawned, you had to put money in it. I'm not sure how much money it was, I can't imagine it was very much. but I'm sure that over time it accumulated to be a lot. And at Christmas, Kenny would donate the money in the cast's name. I'm not sure if it's just the cast or if it's the cast and crew, but even so, he would donate the money to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Utah, which is super cool. I feel like that's a great idea for just local theater teachers and directors and choreographers to think about, because I know when I did theater, there were things similar, but like, instead of just getting upset at your students for talking or whatever, why not put it to like a good cause? I don't know. I like the yawn jar idea. I think it's very valuable. Filming was a very fast process considering this was a movie musical. The songs had like 2 or 3 days to film, which just sounds really intense and stressful to me. Speaking of songs, the songs in the film had over a dozen songwriters because this process was so fast that one person couldn't just sit and do all of the songs. So maybe that's why they all have like a different flair and sound to them, because they're all done by different people. We're All in This Together is, arguably the most popular and well-known and iconic song of the entire franchise. Maybe closely followed by Bet On It. Shout out to Bet On It. But We're All in This Together was almost everyone's a winner. I hate it. But Disney Channel's president at the time hated it too, thankfully. He thought it was too cheesy, which it definitely is. Like, would it have been the same tune? Like, everyone's a winner. That's horrible. That would have tanked the whole thing. We would never have gotten sequels. That would have been the nail in the coffin. The first High School Musical movie had a $4.2 million budget, which felt like a really big risk to Disney executives. This was the biggest budget ever given to a DCOM, and it's hard enough to pull off a good movie musical, let alone one for TV. I'm so glad that they gave that budget. Like, every decision they made, I'm so glad, because everything led to what we know and love. To get used to being a great basketball star, Corbin Bleu kept his basketball with him at all times, including when he slept. That's dedication. He also picked out his jersey number and had a really big say in his iconic t-shirts that had funny puns and sayings on them. Those t-shirts were almost as iconic as the movie itself, to be honest with you. Ashley Tisdale has said that she took home most of Sharpay's wardrobe, which how could you not? The fashion of it all. And I guess Disney tried to get them back because, of course, they probably want to preserve those and display them and put them in museums because that's what High School Musical deserves. But Ashley Tisdale refused to get rid of them, which I do not blame her for. I admire the tenacity. Is that the right word? No one knows. Lucas improvised his iconic line, "Everybody loves a good jazz square," to pay homage to choreographers from his youth that would put a jazz square in everything. That is definitely a local choreographer staple. But it is true, everybody does love a good jazz square. So High School Musical premiered on Disney Channel on January 20th, 2006, and that is when my life changed forever for the better. It was an instant mega hit, pulling in 8 million viewers. That's like 2 times the budget that they had. So if everybody tuning in was worth $1, they made twice back. Which isn't a real thing, it's just a fun fact I just came up with. Up until this premiere, Cadet Kelly was the most popular DCOM, probably because of Hilary Duff and her poll. Stay tuned for a future Cadet Kelly episode, folks. I remember the night that High School Musical premiered. The funny thing is I don't really remember much leading up to it. Like, I know I got the Disney Adventure magazines and they had, little postery things that were like, hey, here's a movie coming out you should watch, but I don't remember being like hyped for it or looking forward to it or planning on even watching the premiere. I don't think that I was even thinking about that. From what I pretty vividly remember, I just had Disney Channel on as normal, like I always did, and this movie started, and I think right around start of Something New, I was like, wait a second, this is amazing! And I remember running into the kitchen where my mom was like making dinner or cleaning up dinner and being like, oh my gosh, we all have to sit down and watch this. This is the best thing ever. And from there, the rest is history. So here are some quick stats for you. It was number 1 in the time slot of all cable and broadcast in women ages 18 to 49. And the soundtrack charted number 1 on the Billboard Top 200. It was the first time ever for a TV movie. It was also the top-selling album of 2006, with 3.7 million copies sold and it went triple platinum. In addition to all of that, it got the Billboard Music Award for Soundtrack Album of the Year in 2006. Part of the reason why people think High School Musical was so successful was that families could sit down and watch it together. Like I said, I came running into the kitchen and told my parents that we had to drop everything and watch, and my dad has said that he was shocked that it was like actually entertaining for adults. And my dad can be a pretty tough critic, so if he says High School Musical is good, it's good. Peter Barsiconi, remember how I said I was going to mess up that name the whole time? We're just going to call him Peter, like I said. Peter has said that they made the conscious decision to make the first musical number in the movie a karaoke song, and the second in a gym, because it kind of tricked people that wouldn't normally watch movie musicals into watching a movie musical. Because by the time they figured out that they were watching a musical, they were already too deep into it and loving it, and they couldn't get away. High School Musical was followed by a sing-along version and a dance-along version, both of which I very much participated in my living room. I was giving a full concert to no one. I think at one point my cousins did join in, but I'm pretty sure I was the star. There was also a concert tour, which was, I cannot believe I didn't go to this concert tour. That is my biggest regret in life, probably. There was a stage musical, there was even an ice show, which I did go to. I don't remember any of the performance, but I remember being there. The concert tour that I mentioned that I said is my biggest regret in life because I didn't see it in person. I only saw the recorded version. But anyway, it grossed $33 million. And get this, by 2008, 2 years after High School Musical premiered, Time reported that the franchise had made almost $700 million in soundtrack and merch sales. $700 million. Remember when I said they had a $4.2 million budget and Disney was worried about it? I don't think they're worried now. The success of High School Musical paved the way for other movie musicals, not just on TV, but in film. In 2007 alone, we had Hairspray, Enchanted, Once, Sweeney Todd, but also think about other TV musical shows, you know, like Glee, most recently Schmigadoon, even Smash, and think about other DCOMs. There is no way we would have had Descendants or Teen Beach Movie. Like, none of these would have happened if High School Musical had tanked. Because High School Musical became what it became, we have had so much wonderful movie musical content, and that's amazing. I mean, I think that's part of High School Musical's legacy for sure. That's definitely a big part. The fact that it brought back the movie musical. I think all of us that grew up with High School Musical, especially those of us that were like hardcore fans, definitely carry like the messages of the movie with us. And we definitely carry the quotes and the memes and all of the iconicness that was High School Musical with us. I mean, we reference it a lot. I know I do. And I hope that you enjoyed taking this little dive into High School Musical history. In future episodes, I will definitely be exploring High School Musical 2 because that in itself is another huge phenomenon. I mean, this franchise it has a life of its own. Leave a comment about your High School Musical experience as it pertains to the first movie. Did you see the premiere? Did you see the concert tour? Did you see the ice show? Because I did. Were you in a production of it? I would love to hear about your experience and your attachment to High School Musical because I love High School Musical and I love when other people talk about it. And I love you all. Stay beautiful, you people.